All right, it's the Morning Hustle, man. New week, new things to conquer and sort out. We got our good friend. I am legally hype, and it's time to believe the hype. What up, Queen?
What it do? What it do? How are you? It's been a
Oh,
minute.
great. It is the first time I've seen you in 2023, and I feel like I can still get away with saying Happy New Year. So, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year and a happy birthday to me too. Don't forget you want me happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. How are you turning it up? Are we getting
How did
illegal
I
for
say
the night or what?
it? No, my birthday was January 8th and you missed it, so I needed both.
Okay, well, I apologize. Happy retro birthday. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully it was everything that you wanted it to be and more. And hopefully people pin money to your collar because like people are still financially going through it. And we got to talk about this debt ceiling. What is that? And what does the debt ceiling mean for regular folk?
Okay, so boom. So the debt ceiling, I think of it as like your credit card limit, right? So America has a certain amount of money that it is allowed to borrow to pay its bills. And
Mhm.
so just think of it as like a credit card because we put more money out than we really take in, right? Especially
Okay.
with like tax cuts and things like that, because most of the money that America gets comes from taxes, really, right? Or at least that was the case last year. Most of it came from people's taxes. So it's basically like a limit on how much we're allowed to spend. And so it's a group of people that get to decide, like, okay, are we gonna bump them up a little bit? You know what I'm saying? Like, look at their history, look at their credit score, right? We're gonna give them a little bit more so they can go ahead and take care of what they need to take care of, or they're gonna have to move some stuff around and figure out, if they can hold some for somebody else. So, in terms of what it means for regular people, it depends on where you are on the spectrum, right? So, this affects things such as if and when you get your tax return, right? If you are a government employee, if we go into a furlough, right, you probably not gonna get paid until we get this situated. If you're
We've
somebody
seen
who
that happen a couple times.
right, we have seen this, right? If you're somebody who receives like Social Security, right, you probably don't get your money. So
Mm.
yeah, it's like it has a huge impact on us, right? And at the same time, because the money that America puts out, think about it, is the same money that America gets back in. So if America don't pay you, then you can't spend that money. So then America not going to get nothing back, and it just starts a whole situation of drama.
Got you. And so when does it start to affect the American people
So
if they don't fix it? Like, how long does it take for the effects of this to trickle down? Because sometimes it's an overnight thing where oh my God, we're starting to run out of things. But sometimes it takes a while for you to take notice.
for sure. So the people who hold down America's wallet, right, who control our finances and our spending and stuff, they'll start moving some stuff around and like cutting little stuff that doesn't really impact us. But we'll really start to see it hit us hard in the summertime because that's when kind of like, your little backup cash, your little stash cash, that's when I start running low. And then it's like, okay, now what we gonna do? We're gonna have to start cutting people off. So we might have to close some of these national parks or, some of the stuff that is strictly government funded. We might have
Mhm.
to like just y'all gonna have to wait off, right? You're probably not gonna get your check no time soon.
Got you. Well, that is tough, and I don't want to see nobody go through that. Quick little bonus question for you. Every time we have you on, we always bring up the student loans because there's a lot of adults out here still like dealing with that. And Uncle Joe Biden was saying, "Hey, we'll make it happen for you," but it seems like at this point he's being kept alive by his belt. And what happens if, God forbid, something happens to Joe Biden before everything goes into effect? Do you think that would affect the possibility of people getting their student loan forgiveness?
Okay, so boom. Not really. And I would say that because if something happened to Joe Biden, then next up in line is Kamala, right? She's the next person to take his seat,
But
and
she
she should
hasn't been to
already.
work in months.
So y'all better stop playing with her like that.
Yo, I don't see like Kamala Harris is like Bigfoot at this point. Like we heard about her, we've seen some pictures of it, but we don't, like we need more proof.
How many times did y'all see Joe Biden when Obama was in office? Outside of the photos, we saw them fist bumping and stuff.
In my head, I saw them together a lot, like Dre and Snoop.
You
That's how
saw
I
them
looked at like
together.
Obama and Joe Biden. Yeah, they was always rocking out. And I don't know if maybe Kamala walks too fast for Joe and they're like, hey, we're going to do separate things and do side missions. I don't know. Like, I don't see Kamala and Joe Biden together much.
But how many times did you see Joe Biden actually doing some work?
Like how often do you actually see people doing actual work? You just see them
I mean,
present
that's
every
one
now
that
and then they make a speech.
So why you playing with Kamala like that? See, I don't like how y'all be holding black women to different standards than y'all hold these men. So let's just look at the situation in totality, right? So you may not see her and what she's doing, but that don't mean she's not doing no work, because that's what the DP do. They do their thing on the side, and they run their show, they run their play on the side, and they pull up when they need to pull up, right? They pull up to the podium when they need to pull up. She has been present and she has been doing some work. You just don't see her as often, right? And
okay, so Legally Hype, you're pretty much putting her in the category of God. You know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily see God, but you know God's working.
Or air. God is
air really there, or is it not?
I'm gonna say you're gonna have them all in my comment section trying to argue with me. No. So I will say air, right? You know, air is there. You know, it's doing this thing. You just don't really see it, okay? But it's working. It's helping us. We breathing. It's coming through, right? But in terms of the student loans, back to that. So if something were to happen to him, right, she is next in line. The policy is already pretty much written and has been agreed on. Right now, it's in the Supreme Court. Or rather, the Supreme Court is deciding whether or not they're going to address the issue, because the main issue right now is whether the plaintiffs, so the people who brought the lawsuit and are saying like, oh, this is a constitutional violation, whether they have standing to bring this issue to court. And so in determining whether they have standing, you basically have to have a case or controversy, which means like, you already been harmed. You have been harmed. You can't bring a case to court because you're like, oh, this might happen to me. You bring a case to court when something has already happened to you. You have been affected. Like this is a issue, right? Or in some capacity, like you're close enough to whoever has been harmed that it affects you. So the Supreme Court has to decide whether the plaintiffs that are bringing this issue forward have standing, right? Whether they've been affected by this, by the new law or whatever, ruling, whatever it is. And then they'll decide, okay, we should hear oral arguments on the case. If they decide that the plaintiffs don't have standing, they're going to throw it out. Too bad, so sad, go on about your day, find another way to, bring up your issue. And then everything should be back rolling. With that, what the administration has did is they have made it basically, they have kind of lowered the payments, if that makes sense. So depending on what kind of payment plan you're on, like some people have like the 20-year plan, right? Where you're going to pay this amount of money for 20 years. Once you get your 20 years out the way, you straight, you done, you did your job, right? So what they pretty much have done is like, people haven't been paying, right, for at least the last 2 years. So as opposed to keep continuing to add on to that, right? Add on to that time. What they're doing is they basically letting you reclaim your time. So they like, okay, boom. If you made payments up until this point for this long, we're going to go ahead and count that. We ain't even going to hold you about, the payments you didn't make or whatever. We're not going to add no time onto your clock. We're just going to we're going to let the clock keep running for you, basically. So that still kind of cuts down the payments a little bit, but it's not as big as a forgiveness that everybody is expecting at this point.
See, yeah, a lot of people feel like they about to go like that. You know what I'm saying? To be able to like, throw their hat in the air like on the intro of Different World.
Hopefully by the end of this year, but until the Supreme Court decide how they want to move on that. And they got a lot of big cases this year, so we're going to see.
All right, well, there it is. Well, thank you so much for putting everything in a nice, neat, legal bow. She go by the name of I Am Legally Hype. If people want to follow you, where can they go?
You can go to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. Follow me, holla at me. You can go to legallyhype.com for merch. And yeah.
There it is. Continued Capricorn season for this lady right here. One time for I Am Legally Hype. Much love, Queen.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
We are the Morning Hustle.